Picture this. You're standing on the windswept shores of Nova Scotia. The ocean breeze carries whispers of secrets buried deep beneath your feet. And then, you unearth it. A massive corroded iron pin. The kind not used for houses or barns, but for something much more extraordinary. A wharf. A wharf pin. Suddenly, you're no longer just on Oak Island. You're standing at what might have once been a secret treasure dock. Welcome back, treasure hunters and mystery lovers. In today's deep dive, we're taking you through Season 12, Episode 19 of The Curse of Oak Island, where we're not just talking about holes in the ground, we're talking about real, tangible connections to centuries-old secrets. This isn't just an episode recap. This is a story, a theory, a possibility that could change everything we know about Oak Island's hidden past. So buckle in, because we're diving into ancient docks, rare pottery, mysterious logs, and the ever-deepening enigma of the RP2 shaft. It started with something simple, a dig on Lot 5 near the shoreline. Nothing new, right? But then, boom. Out comes a massive iron wharf pin. This wasn't your everyday building hardware. No, friend. This was the kind of iron you used when you were mooring ships, possibly even treasure-laden ships. And guess what? It was found right beside an old stone structure, a round feature that's been raising eyebrows for a while now. Experts estimated the pin dates back to the mid to late 1700s. That alone is intriguing. But here's where it gets mind-blowing. The size and placement of the pin suggest it wasn't meant for just any dock. It could have belonged to a military wharf. Imagine it. A hidden, heavily reinforced docking station where ships secretly unloaded precious cargo under the cover of darkness. Could this have been the final stop for treasure arriving from afar? But hold on. This episode doesn't just hit us with hardware. Moments later, the team uncovers pottery, Asbury ware to be exact. A kind of English-made ceramic produced between the 1720s and 1760s, in pristine condition no less. So we now have an iron wharf pin and rare pottery from the mid-18th century. Coincidence? Maybe. But then another artifact emerges. It's a piece of pottery bearing a symbol that stops everyone in their tracks. A fleur-de-lis. Now, if you've been following this treasure hunt, you know that's not just a pretty symbol. It's French, royal, mysterious. And it might just connect to one of Oak Island's oldest and most compelling theories: the involvement of the French military and the Order of the Knights Templar. Let's rewind to 1746. France launched its largest naval armada ever, aiming to take back Nova Scotia from the British. Leading the charge was none other than the Duc d'Anville, a name that's echoed through Oak Island lore for decades. But here's the twist. A secret mission. Disease and weather destroyed the main fleet, but some say a smaller covert operation succeeded. Their mission? Bury an enormous treasure on a small, forested island off the coast. Now back to our modern-day team, who, brace yourself, have found a French naval log that details this exact plan. It has been agreed that a deep pit be dug and treasure securely buried. Sound familiar? It should. That's exactly what the original Oak Island legends claimed over 200 years ago. Let's switch gears to the RP2 shaft, where the team is digging deep, nearly 100 feet down, right in the middle of the money pit area. And what do they find? Timber. Oak timber. Hand-cut. Heavy. Possibly centuries old. Now, if you know your Oak Island history, you know that the original money pit was constructed with oak platforms every 10 feet. So what if this timber pulled from RP2 is actually part of that original pit? That would mean they're not just circling the mystery. They're in it. And as they dig deeper, they find more clues. A potential collapse zone, more debris, and tantalizingly close proximity to where the infamous Shaft 6 tunnel was built, to bypass a booby-trapped flood system and reach the treasure from the side. Now, let's head to the northern swamp area, another place that continues to surprise. The team is back at it, lining up rows of staked flags, marking what appears to be a perfectly measured cobblestone path. And just like clockwork, they begin finding cut stakes every 14 feet, almost like a grid. Why does this matter? Because it shows precision, intent, design. Someone mapped this out, possibly to transport something heavy across the wetland terrain, maybe even treasure. Then comes another bizarre discovery: a cut wooden pin, shallowly buried, possibly part of a structural anchor. And once again, the location aligns with the stake grid. This isn't random swamp debris. This is a blueprint. And it's speaking. If only we can understand its language. This episode also brought an emotional moment. Gary Drayton's daughter Katya wrapping up her treasure hunting season. And guess what? She finds a stake herself before leaving. The passion for the hunt runs deep in this family. And her contribution reminds us that this story isn't just about gold or old wood. It's about legacy, curiosity, and passing the torch of exploration. Each stake, each artifact, every single piece of pottery or iron is part of a bigger picture. It's a slow burn, but it's building towards something. And we can all feel it. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. We're not just seeing isolated finds anymore. No, this is starting to feel like a mosaic. Each shard of pottery, every ancient wooden beam, and those precise measurements in the swamp, they're all part of a larger design, the kind of design that doesn't happen by accident. This feels like the work of a secret operation. Think about it. Why would someone go through the trouble of engineering a cobblestone path through a swamp, burying oak timbers at 10-foot intervals, and setting up wharf pins capable of anchoring large ships, unless they had something to hide? That's where things get really spicy. Theories swirl like the Atlantic fog around this island. The French military, the Knights Templar, the Rosicrucians, maybe even pirates or rogue nobles hiding away war spoils or sacred relics. And let's not forget about the Duc d'Anville's failed expedition, which some claim ended not in defeat, but in deception. What if the storm and disease that supposedly destroyed his fleet was just a cover story? What if a small group broke away, sailed quietly to Oak Island, and buried their fortune under layers of traps, tunnels, and false leads? Sounds crazy, until you look at what the team is finding. Let's go back to those oak timbers pulled up from RP2. They're not just wood, they're storytellers. They whisper of a time when men, maybe dozens of them, worked tirelessly in secret to build a shaft that would both protect and hide something beyond imagination. Why oak? Because it was strong, durable, and it matched the descriptions from the earliest searchers in the 1800s. If those logs are original, and there's a very good chance they are, then the team is within striking distance of the very heart of the Money Pit mystery. We're not talking about theories anymore. We're talking about evidence. Right now, RP2 is inching toward that magical depth, 118 feet. That's where past searchers claim to hit layers of stone, wood, and something even more elusive: gold. And now the Oak Island team is almost there. They've paused the dig for the night, but the anticipation is electric. You can feel it in their voices. It's like Christmas Eve. But instead of toys under a tree, they're hoping for treasure under centuries of dirt and deception. Rick Lagina even said it himself. Tomorrow's the day. And you know what? It just might be. Let's not overlook what's happening in the swamp. The pattern of stakes, the measured spacing, and the discovery of yet another pin. It all screams intentional design. And this swamp has been stubborn. Every time the team thinks they've figured it out, it throws a new curveball. But what if that's the point? What if the swamp was the vault? A diversion, a delivery system, a trap. Imagine treasure being moved inland from a docked ship, carried over a hidden cobblestone road through a swamp engineered to confuse and conceal. Now it's starting to make sense, isn't it? One of the most moving parts of this episode wasn't even about treasure. It was about people. Katya, Gary Drayton's daughter, saying goodbye after a successful dig. She found a stake herself. You could see the pride in her dad's face. That moment reminded us all why this show matters. It's not just about gold, it's about legacy, family, adventure, the drive to uncover truth that spans generations. This island calls to people. It hooks you, heart and soul, and never lets go. That's the real curse. But maybe it's also a gift. So what happens next? Tomorrow the RP2 shaft pushes past 100 feet and deeper into the unknown. The swamp grid continues to unfold. And the mystery, that ancient, intoxicating mystery, only grows stronger. Will they find treasure? We can't say for sure. But what's undeniable is that they are closer than ever. Closer to proving that Oak Island wasn't just a myth, it was a mission. And if even part of that mission is uncovered, it will rewrite history as we know it. So stay with us, because tomorrow just might be the day.